Game is on, and to the bottom of the map we have the player for MTW. He's starting in the red. It is the Terran who calls himself
MTW SuperNova.
He wants that ST award. He wants to get his 10th straight Code S, but if he doesn't get out of this group today, he will not have it, and he'll have to start over from 0.
Yeah, the SuperNova, he wants to shine, wants to have his moment of glory here. To the top, cross positioned, we have his opponent. Still part of the Slayers team, not for long though. This is
Slayers Ryung.
And SuperNova starting things off today with a gas first. Wants to be aggressive against Ryung.
Yep, and cross positions here, this can be done. It just depends on how he wants to do it. You see a normal opening from Ryung. Find out very soon if he wants to take his own gas.
Yeah, well, if he's just heading into the 1 barracks expand. Either way, SuperNova will have to do some damage with this opening. He definitely wants to be the aggressor here, wants to show his opponent, okay, listen up, I'm gonna open up here with aggression, I want to take this game as fast as possible, want to force you in submission. And Ryung, on the other hand, he starts with his own gas. He will be able to get a Viking out in time if there's a Banshee play by SuperNova, if he wants to.
I feel Ryung's Terran versus Terran can be summed up as calm, cool, and collected. He doesn't normally take too many risks, but even when he does, when he goes for an aggressive build, it just looks like he's so patient with it. He knows exactly how to move. He very rarely walks into siege tanks. He doesn't overextend himself. He doesn't walk into line of sight blockers where he doesn't know what's there. He's very careful as a Terran.
He indeed is. The last 2 games that he played against Terran players were against Thorzane and against Hart. He was able to win both of these best of 3s with a 2-0 score. So pretty impressive here. SuperNova, on the other hand, is definitely not a pushover. He's a very, very strong player. He has shown this in the past. In the last Up&Downs, he was not too successful. Well, actually, that's not true. He advanced into Code S, but then in his group, he dropped down to Code A, where he then lost to Trap, Protoss player. So let's see how SuperNova is doing today. In the last matches against Terran, he had to face Happy, who he lost to, and he was able to win against for GG with a 2-0. That was already a few months ago. So he didn't play too many mirror matches just in the recent past.
Yeah, this is true. It's been a little bit of a dry spell for him in that regard, I guess. But the Reaper of Ryung with his Reaper expand will come and scout. Now, what this Reaper will accomplish is a lot, actually, considering that Ryung knows that his opponent did this super fast switch with the Tech Lab. He knows that his opponent is going to have a very low amount of Marines. In fact, he will only have 1 when the Reaper arrives. So if he kills that Marine, he could do a lot of damage here with the Scout. And this Scout is so critical because he's going to see that we are seeing a really unusual build from SuperNova. Yeah. We are seeing a Blue Flame Hellion Rush build. This has not been seen in so long.
And the Reaper is doing the damage that you talked about. Already 2 SCVs dead. He kills another one. And that is really well played so far. Another one. Wow, really well done. 4 kills with this Reaper. That definitely paid off. So SuperNova now, as you already mentioned, Wolf, with a Blue Flame Hellion, is a strategy that we don't see that often in a Terran versus Terran. It's not completely uncommon, but still, it's a little bit out of the ordinary and depends also a bit on the element of surprise, which SuperNova now doesn't have anymore.
Ryung is also getting a second gas now. Normally, when you get this, when you have this build, you go into a command center. But with this second gas he has, he's actually going to be able to go Cloak Banshees if he wants to, and that's going to be something that SuperNova may struggle to deal with his late starport. The Hellion does not come into the main. Ryung has his own Hellion out just in time to defend it. Now, what is he really going to be able to do with these Hellions early on in the game is the question on everyone's mind, mine included, because this build is so rare and so abnormal. It's not a build you see. Right now, he only has 1 Hellion with Blue Flame out.
He will need a medevac if he really wants to make this work. He needs to elevate as an opponent's base. And Ryung, on the other hand, is of course now, after what he scouted, heading straight into Cloak, into Banshees. Wants to be aggressive on his own and will have a very, very dangerous weapon that he can use to harass and also defend against the Hellion pressure, depending on what he prefers here. But for Ryung now, it's really important to make sure that there's no drop headed this way.
I just don't know if I fully understand the build of SuperNova. With having Blue Flame out rushed with only 1 Hellion, now he has a second one. That's a ton of gas spent. What if this Banshee that he's making right now was out so much faster? This build is really unusual.
I'm actually really surprised that he goes for the Banshee instead of the Medivac.
Yeah, or that he goes for the Banshee instead of the Viking after knowing that his opponent has the... He's going to be really vulnerable to Cloak Banshees if that's what his opponent is doing because he doesn't have a lot of Marines on the map. Right now, in total, he has 1.
On the other hand, we have the expansion a lot faster for SuperNova. In one regard, this is a pretty decent situation for him, but on the other hand, now Ryung has 2 points of attack. He can attack at the natural or in the main base, and that just is nothing for SuperNova right now that could defend against it. He's getting the Raven first.
This is going to be deadly. He has no answer for this. None whatsoever. The Raven is going to be useful for Cloak, but it doesn't matter if you have detection if you can't kill anything with it. And yeah, he cancels the Raven. He needs to get a Viking out. He doesn't start one for so long, though. He didn't have the resources.
He's attacking now. He's trying to do some damage. His own Banshee enters the main base of Ryung, but Ryung is losing worker after worker. He's losing so much. Here comes another Banshee, but on the other hand, Ryung also needs a Viking. Both of them are now just taking apart the mineral lines.
Yep, Ryung with a really nice defense here with his Hellions, though. Doesn't matter if you have Blue Flame or not, when your opponent has a better count and a better split, takes him out. The Banshee, though, for Ryung is doing its own damage, but the Banshee of SuperNova already up to 11 kills himself.
Nah, 23 actually. 23 kills. Oh, no, you're right. SuperNova with only 13 kills, Ryung with 23 by now.
The scan does attempt to kill this Banshee, which is now up to 23 kills, but he doesn't get it. He's now starting the Raven. GG.
GG for SuperNova.
That was a build I did not understand. I would really like to sit down and talk to him about that and see what the original plan was. I thought, actually, when I saw the tech lab like that, I was like, wow, he's going to do a super fast siege tank push. Then he started Blue Flame, and without a dropship, as you said, it's so hard to actually do damage with that. You have to get into the main base somehow. And at the time when Blue Flame finished, he had it out so quick, but he had one Hellion. Exactly. Why rush and upgrade when you have one unit that it affects? That's super weird, doesn't make any sense.
Then he starts his Raven, has to cancel him because of the Viking, doesn't have anything against the Banshees. So that was really a little bit odd. With the Medivac, he could have tried to elevate his opponent's main base and do a bit of more damage. And maybe even a few more Hellions so that he can poke at the front and then go into the main base with a dropship. But in the end, he didn't do it. He tried to gamble a little bit. And Ryung with his own Banshee just took his mineral line apart.
Now, this is why the Reaper expands such a good build, because it allows you to be flexible. You know, instead of taking a command center, he took a second gas and went into Cloak Banshees because he knew with the build his opponent chose, he was going to have all the opportunities in the world to do damage. If the Viking was out, if he didn't start the Raven and cancel it, he would have still lost so much. With no real Marines, he would have had to hit those scans. He didn't have an eBay, no turrets. He would have lost so much there.
Things started off really bad for him when the Reaper entered the main base and he didn't really have anything in order to defend. So he lost 4 of his SCVs early on, which is of course really, really annoying. But well, as it is, we have now 2 players up 1 game in this group. It's this Flash and Ryung. And the next game that we are going to see is between Sirius and Flash. So we see God again.
Yeah, he's coming out and he's going to be playing against the former prisoner of Azkaban here. Yeah. Who was not able to take his 3rd round match. It looked pretty good though. In that match, I must say, I was a little bit impressed with him this season. You know, Sirius has been kind of in the background for a really long time. I remember watching him play forever ago when FX Open and FOU first merged together, and his Zerg versus Terran at that time I thought was actually the best on the team. Now you can see Lucky has kind of surpassed him in that regard. We've also got Lenok is really good, but Sirius, man, he's not bad, and he could get out of here today, I think.
When Sirius defeated MMA, I was really impressed by his builds. His builds were sometimes a little bit risky. He took a chance, but for example, the Roach push that we've seen him execute in Entombed Valley against his opponent, that was really impressive. And this is actually the map that we are going to see right now. What he did on Entombed Valley against MMA is he went for a full Roach attack, only Roaches, and he built a lot of them. Usually in a Zerg versus Terran matchup, Zergs try to poke a little bit with Roaches, build up to 9, 10 roughly, and try to do a bit of damage, but Sirius committed so hard to it, went for the Roaches and continued producing them, and MMA just wasn't ready, not at all. And this overwhelmed him. He was prepared to defend against a few of them, but not against such a commitment. So Sirius today could use a similar strategy. We're going to find out pretty soon. He's already in the lobby just waiting for his opponent.
Yeah. Let's say Flash had to reset up his equipment. With the 5-player rotation, this does sometimes happen where you have to move computers because we only have 4 booths. Maybe that will change in the future. I saw some people tweeting jokes about that. Maybe we should have 6 booths global standard. Because you know there's 4 booths global standard little CM that comes up. Yep. Everyone's joking and tweeting about. Some of the Korean producers are actually tweeting about how it should be 6 booths global standard. Actually, I think 4
is enough.
I feel like we should have 4-player groups if that were possible. That would be the best possible scenario. But do you remember back in the old day of the Up and Down groups, there were some 4-player groups where you had this production where we had 4 cameras on 4 booths, and during every time in between, it would have every player in the booth with their win rate over their head, and then like even if they weren't playing, they had to sit in the booth while the score was there.
The problem is with the player numbers that you now have, if you go for 4 player groups, then you would have to include like 2 additional weeks only for the up and downs.
Yeah.
That would be a bit of an overkill, I think.
Those were some fun times back then, though, when they first got the 4 booths like that. Well, the map is in Tomb Valley, and Flash is pending. He's in. We're going to be starting up pretty soon here.
If Flash wins now, he's suddenly 2-0 in the group, which will give him a great spot, a great position to get into Code S. But Sirius, on the other hand, he's a little bit the one player that most people don't expect to go into Code S. Most of the comments tend to say that he's not ready yet, that they don't think that he has it in him to go to Code S yet and also succeed there. But on the other hand, if he's not afraid to, I don't want to say cheese, but to just show some innovation, show some builds that his opponent might not suspect or expect, then he definitely has a chance here. He's the player that probably most of his opponents didn't prepare for as much as for the rest of them, just because he hasn't this big name yet.
He's also the only Zerg, so that's something else to consider as well. Now, map is loading here. He is the only player, Sirius is, that has not played yet today, so he's currently on 0-0, and as you said, if Flash wins, he takes 2-0, and is going to be in a pretty solid position in the group. His fate will be in his hands. Sirius, though, of course, wants to get this. He doesn't want to start with a deficit. And, you know, it would be a really strange world if Sirius, I feel, got out of this group and found himself in Code S.
Well, we've seen strange things happen. The game is about to start, guys. It is the Terran versus Zerg in game number 3 here at the Up and Downs today. It is Flash up against Sirius right now. Get ready. Here we go. And Toon Valley is the map.